if I were, the person in charge of firing and hiring people, Sean McDermott would not be even in the top 10 list of people to fire. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the OT and OT podcast, the show where we go overtime on all things sports and off topic on everything else. My name is Braxton Ramirez, and I will be your host. Let's get into it. Welcome to the very first episode of the OT and OT podcast. I'm very excited to share this with you guys. I cannot wait to get going. This is something that I'm super passionate about, sports, and getting off topic on everything else, because I do that all the time in my daily life. So basically, for today's episode, this is the Super Bowl Sunday episode. Today is the Super Bowl as of day recording, and it is a couple hours before. So I'll be recording a few things prior to the game, and then I'll be recording the rest of the episode post-game. And we're going to hit on a couple things today, different things about the NFL season, some expectations, some things that failed, some things that fell very, very hard, and some personal opinions about my team and my opinions on some decisions made in the NFL season. So without further ado, let's get into it. The very first thing I wanted to hit on was some NFL coaching debacles kind of that we're looking at right now. And the first couple that I wanted to hit on were coaches that are leaving the team in which we thought they could possibly be with for a very long time and have been with for a very long time. First coach up, we're going to go to Mr. John Harbaugh, which got released from the Ravens after a long career there, won a Super Bowl, and now he is going to go coach for the New York Giants. And believe it or not, I think this was a great move because the Giants have struggled for the last 10 years, and maybe they'll have a little bit more steady coaching now that John is there, because they have incredible talent. They have, Malik Neighbors, Cam Skattebo, and Jackson Dart. So, they have three very dynamic offensive players, along with Abdul Carter. They are very well set up for a good run for the next couple of years. And meanwhile, they've went through, I believe, 4 head coaches in the last 10 years. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's right. Like I said, if I'm wrong, I don't keep up with a lot of the news and a lot of the team stuff, but that's just what I'm thinking. And I think Mr. Harbaugh is going to bring a lot of stability and hopefully success to the program and the establishment of the New York Giants, because I think they're due for a good season. It's been, like I said, 10 years since they've done really anything, and the NFC East has been up and down, as probably all of you know watching this, and it's fun to watch for me because the Eagles have been good for the last 6 to 8 seasons, and I've never liked the Giants. I remember growing up and watching them. Playing the Super Bowl, it was cool just to watch them beat Tom Brady, but after that, it was like, I'm an Eagles fan, so why would I really care about the Giants? But the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool for them if they can figure it out, and I think John Harbaugh is going to do that for them. The next person I wanted to talk about was Mike Tomlin, right? He's been with the Steelers longer than I've really even been watching football, and he's decided to step down as their head coach, and who knows if he will get back to coaching, if he'll coach another team, or if he will do something else. He's won a Super Bowl or 2 since he's been coaching, and sorry, this is the very first episode. Then this is I'm going pretty much raw edits here, and this is very, I find it hard sometimes to talk to the camera, but without losing my breath, I get too caught up in what I'm doing and then forget to breathe like a normal person. But yeah, so Mike Tomlin, he seems like a very, very good coach, and I think what he's done for the Steelers organization is fantastic. I just understand, after so many years, it'd be hard to continue going on, especially if you've had kind of stagnant years. The last 6 years, I think they've gone into the playoffs with a 500 record, and nobody really wants that. You want to be dominant in the sport of football, and it's just hard, I think, to maintain that mentality of we can be mediocre at best and still make the playoffs every year. Like, that's not fun. And the only reason they made it there is because they won their last game of the season, and it was an all or nothing game, so they had to win. So I understand he wanted to step down because of that and just not being mediocre, but who knows if it was really anything else. I mean, he's been there a long time, like we said. So with him stepping down, that means that the Steelers head coach position was available. And while I was doing my research for this episode, I noticed, I think it was, a day or two after I started researching for this, Mike McCarthy actually was hired to be the Steelers head coach for the next season. And obviously, people are going to speculate about things or be excited about things. And this is a Rodgers-McCarthy reunion from back in the days of the Green Bay Packers. Mike McCarthy was a coach when they won the Super Bowl. And it, leads people to believe that this could be a magic matchup that they found between Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. And honestly, I don't disagree whatsoever. I think that's something that a lot of people carry with them in teams. And, Mike McCarthy obviously led an Aaron Rodgers-led team to a Super Bowl win. So that should be very, very exciting to watch this next season if Aaron Rodgers decides to play again. Maybe the most out of left field coaching spot that I know everybody's questioning is the Bills firing Sean McDermott. And I've had some conversations with some of my students, and I am led to believe that, I wouldn't say he's made the best decisions as a coach in terms of where they are, especially in playoff contention and things like that. But if I were, the person in charge of firing and hiring people, Sean McDermott would not be even in the top 10 list of people to fire on a team. Because, since the time that Josh Allen has been there, they have been a very prominent force in the AFC East. So I don't know why they were led to believe that Sean McDermott was the problem, or if maybe that wasn't the reason. I haven't done the research on that aspect of it, but I was blown away when I saw, literally the next day after they had lost, Sean McDermott fired, and I couldn't believe it. I was so blown away by the fact that they thought that they should fire him for whatever reason it is that they said. I just think that him and Josh Allen did a very good job together. Obviously, they haven't been able to get over the hump of getting to the Super Bowl. Like the last 4 seasons, they've been, ended in a really bad way in the playoffs. But Sean McDermott and Josh Allen were a very good matchup with each other, and I was blown away when I saw he got fired. So I honestly couldn't believe that. And then we move into the AFC West. You get the Raiders coach, Pete Carroll, which, believe me or not, I don't like him. I always thought he was kind of a crazy coach. But he went into Vegas with, I don't want to say a bad squad, but not really that fortunate of a team. They had one rising star in Brock Bowers, and then another one drafted this year in Ashton Jeanty. But until you can put together a full squad, and then somebody like Pete Carroll that is in his 70s, that's gonna be a hard position for any coach, regardless of how good you are. And then lead a team to what I think they won 3 games this year. I don't know exactly, but come on. I'm upset. I think that he, is not in Vegas anymore, because I think everybody deserves more than a 1-year chance to prove that they can do something, especially with them, being able to draft in the 2026-2027 season. Why not give him another year? Let him see what he can do. We know he can win a Super Bowl. He's done it before. He had a dynamic team when he coached in Seattle. He went to 2 Super Bowls. So give him the opportunity that he needs, I think, and he deserves as a coach in the NFL. But his tenure was short-lived in Las Vegas. And somewhere that hits very home to me, the Philadelphia Eagles coaching staff. Now, I am not one of the fans that thinks that the entire coaching staff is not good or not suitable for the Philadelphia Eagles, because don't get me wrong, Nick Sirianni is a very polarizing person and a coach. I think he can be a little bit sporadic at times, but the dude can coach some football. Like, they have an unbelievable team. They have actually a really good coaching staff, and all the pressure falls on the head coach, as it should. I mean, there's a lot of high stakes being a head coach. Oh, all right, here we go. Sorry, had some technical difficulties there. But getting back to the conversation about the Philadelphia Eagles and their coaching staff, I honestly have to remember to breathe when I'm doing this, because this, everybody thinks it's so easy to start a podcast and do these things. But I'm just being genuine with you as a listener and a viewer. This is hard. This is very difficult to do. But anyways, like I was saying, Nick Sirianni is a very polarizing coach and a polarizing person, but he has led his team to the playoffs the last 5 years and has won a Super Bowl and appeared in 2 of them. I just find it very hard to believe that people can keep slandering him along with the main player on the team, which is usually put onto the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, as well. So to get into that, the one coach I wanted to hit on, obviously the coach that everybody's had a problem with this season, Kevin Patullo. These are my thoughts and my genuine idea, as not an idea, but my opinions, I guess, my thoughts. To start the season, in a good way, you start 2-0, 2-2, 4-2, whatever it is. The play calling was just good enough to get them to that spot, to get them rolling. They have very good, very, very good players on the team. So regardless of who's calling plays or who's doing what, that team is going to figure out how to win games and how to do things the correct way no matter what, because they're very good players and it's a very good team. But the play calling cannot be elementary. There are probably 25% of the plays that I thought were genuinely good. I'm not saying that I could do any better, but towards the end of the season, I could sit on my couch, watch a game, and call out, I don't know, probably 10 plays in the game on offense the same way Kevin Patullo called them in game. And I'm just like, if I can call them from my couch as somebody that could not coach in the NFL, why is this dude still on the coaching staff? I'm like, oh, please do not run a quarterback draw. Please do not run a screen. And then they continue to run that over and over again. Kevin, I understand. And I do feel bad because he was totally getting clowned by so many people. He had a fast food menu in his hand instead of the play sheet. I'm like, okay, this guy's a professional. He's been doing this. So, give him a little bit of grace and at least say, okay, he's at least coaching my team. He's calling these plays for my team. But, don't be slandering this dude. He's a professional and he's coaching for the NFL. Come on, give him that at least. But anyways, I just have a hard time believing that they could have not found anybody else. And as a coach, I coach high school football. That's nowhere near the elite level of the NFL or the intensity or the amount of detail that I have to focus on in the game. But I just think, why is this dude calling plays like he is coaching grade kid football? This is not elementary school. This is not high school. Your play call has to be aligned with what your team is benefiting itself with. You have two of the most dynamic runners on your team, and you have an elite wide receiver squad. You have a top 5 offensive line in the league, and you're not using them how they should be used. You had a player that won Offensive Player of the Year last year, racked up over 2,000 yards, and you can't figure out how to use him this year. You cannot tell me that you did not learn anything last year on the coaching squad behind the mind of Kellen Moore. How are you not picking up what you should be doing? Run the ball when it's right, pass the ball when it's right, and don't run or pass for things that are only designed to get you 3 to 5 yards a gain. Now, to move on from Kevin Patullo, like I said, I don't mean to slander him. I'm just a fan. I've been a lifelong fan, and it frustrates me to see such a great group of players, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, not being utilized the way that they should be behind an offensive line that has been proven to be one of the best in the last 4 seasons. Yes, they've lost Jason Kelce, but that does not take away from Lane Johnson. That does not take away from Jordan Mailata. That does not take away from Cam Jurgens or any of the other offensive line. Why are we not doing things the way we should with the dynamic group of players that we have? I didn't get it. And it led to us having a disappointing end to the season, losing to the number 60, the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, they're a good team. But as good of a team as the Philadelphia Eagles were this year, with the players that they have, it should not have even been close, especially with the injuries that the 49ers had all season. It's just so disappointing as a fan to see things like that, because you go from literally the highest point in NFL football to losing first round in the playoffs. It sucks. And don't get me wrong, like there's teams that could be, like I could be a fan of a team that hasn't even made the playoffs in the last 6 years. I get it. But still, as a fan that does well, or their team does well, it's more frustrating for your team to suck in the playoffs than it is to have a bad team all the time. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. Because you have high expectations, and then your expectations are given to you short because somehow the offensive side of the ball can't get rolling. Come on. Which, I mean, kind of brings me into my next point about the A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts drama, not drama, and kind of that dynamic that has happened there. When those two are on together, oh my gosh, they are top 3 quarterback wide receiver combo in the league. And A.J. Brown, I understand he has a polarizing personality. Like that's just the way. Like he's a great player, and he has been since college. I mean, there's a reason that he's in the NFL. And I can understand sometimes, not getting the ball to you enough or not getting the targets that you want. But I mean, when you're on a team that has names like Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley, like everything has to be distributed somewhat evenly. And A.J. Brown, you have your moments. I get that. Like, and it can't be every time, but I mean, yes, you do deserve more targets than you did at some points of the season. And also that leads me into the Jalen Hurts slander. Guys, I'm not one of those delusional fans. I get that he's not the most dynamic quarterback in the league, and his regular season stats aren't as good as some of those like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or any of the other people that you believe are elite quarterbacks. But let me tell you this. When it's time for him to show up, he always does. That's not to say that he falls short in some instances, because all quarterbacks do. But I always am remembering the 2 Super Bowls in which he played what people are saying now is the best quarterback that has ever played the game of football. He played him twice in the Super Bowl. Mr. Patrick Mahomes, played the Chiefs twice in the last 3 years in the Super Bowl. And what did Jalen Hurts do? He outperformed him in every category that you could compare them to each other in. Now, remind you again, this is the quarterback that they said that people are saying is the best quarterback that has ever played the game of football. And Jalen Hurts outperformed him 2 times on the biggest stage in the NFL. Now, where does that put him in terms of elite quarterback? I don't know. My personal opinion, Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback in the league, and it is not arguable. How can you, just because his passing yard stats are not the same or as good as everybody else, when do we start to put winning into that equation? People are saying Joe Burrow is a top 5 quarterback in the league. How? Joe Burrow misses games every season. He made it to the Super Bowl once. He's had, 3 rough seasons the last 3 years. He hasn't led his team to a Super Bowl win. And as far as I'm concerned, that takes you out of contention for top 5 quarterback in the league. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. And I'm not downing him at all. I think he is a phenomenal quarterback. I think Joe Burrow is doing great things for the game of football. But do I think that he gets to overtake Jalen Hurts' position in the top 5? Absolutely not. Because he's led his team to the Super Bowl 1 time. Now people are always like, yeah, but his defense, like the Bengals defense is not good. It's not like it doesn't perform how it should. You're right. But how can you excuse the fact that Joe Burrow's missed time the last 2 seasons as well, and you're still putting him top 5? I don't get that. So, in my opinion, Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback in the league. You can't change my mind, and you will not change my mind. Enough with the slander. He's a great quarterback. He runs the ball well. He throws the ball well. Just because his yardage isn't the same, they win games, and he performs at a top quality every single time he plays. Sorry. Okay, getting out of the coaching and the Philadelphia Eagles news for now, we're going to hit back into the Philadelphia Eagles news here in a second, but we're going to kind of pipe down on that for just a second. We're going to go into some things that really surprised us at the beginning of the season and middle of the season to what happened towards the end of the season. The very first thing we're going to hit on, one thing that everybody probably has opinions on, the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I knew, I watch football actively throughout the season, and one thing that I knew the craze for the Colts was crazy, and I knew they were doing really well, but I don't pay attention really that much to everybody else's season, except if they're in the NFC. I try paying more attention to that. But when I looked up today what happened during their season, I was blown away. They started the season 8-2. 8-2. So they played 10 games, and they were 8-2. And then I looked at the next 7 games to finish out the season. They ended the season 8-9. That is rough. Now, that leads me into my next question. Mentally, did Daniel Jones make that big of an impact in their season that they lost 7 straight to end their season? Now, there's a reason that Daniel Jones got traded from the Giants, because he was not doing well. And this season, he did absolutely phenomenal for the time that he was playing. When he got injured, it was a big kick in the butt for the Indianapolis Colts. Not only did they lose the last 7 games of the season, they were in question for playoff contention, I believe, after week 14. There were questions that they weren't even going to make the playoffs because of their downfall in those 4 weeks. They had lost 4 straight at that point. So it was looking rough for them. Now, I hope that next season Daniel Jones returns and Daniel Jones absolutely slings that rock and passes for over 4,000 yards. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know, because he was very inconsistent in New York, but that doesn't mean anything in terms of his career next year. I really hope they do well. It's fun to see people like Daniel Jones come back, and that's going to lead me into another player later on today. The next 2 teams that I'm going to talk about are teams that people are very, very passionate about and always seem to not perform when they need to. And we kind of hit on this already. The 2 teams that I'm thinking of are the Ravens and the Bills. Lamar Jackson is a fantastic quarterback. I know people have got on him for being more of a running back type person and running the ball too much or not throwing the ball like he should. But dude is a dog. Dude is a flat-out baller. He's led his team to some very good seasons the last couple of years. And it just was unfortunate that he was hurt this season. And they started out the season okay. And then they dropped like 6 straight or something like that. But then they rose back up. They were in a point where they were in playoff contention in Week 18. All they had to do was win that game against the Steelers, and they would have been in. And who knows? They could have went further than the Bills. They could have possibly been to the Super Bowl this year. Do I think that would have happened? No, but you never know. I mean, it's always a possibility. And that matchup is always the one that I look forward to every single year. The Bills, Ravens, because that game is always phenomenal. It always leads to great moments, and it's always just fun to watch. 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, head-to-head every season. Who's coming out on top? Sadly, it is mostly Josh Allen. But Lamar Jackson has his moments, and it's fun to see those 2. But like I said, those 2 teams, at least for the last couple of years, have had high expectations for themselves and high expectations from the fans every single year since those 2 have came into the organization. And there have been incredible moments. There have been moments that have made their fans very upset. I mean, last year in the playoffs, they played each other, loser out game, and Mark Andrews drops an easy 2-point conversion to win the game. So it's just all a give and take. I don't know if it was a 2-point conversion. I can't remember if it was or not, but it was to win the game. I know that. And I feel bad for the fans of those 2 teams because they are always led to believe that they can have high expectations for the season, and they always end up not working out as best as they could. Josh Allen deserves to be in 1 Super Bowl before the end of his career. Lamar Jackson deserves to be in a Super Bowl before the end of his career. Now, both of their careers are running on 7, 8 seasons now. It's looking scary. Usually at this point in time, when a quarterback is mediocre in terms of playoff performance or getting to the playoffs, this is about the time where teams are like, okay, do we move on from this person? I actually got from the NFL News this morning that the Dolphins are expected to move on from Tua Tagovailoa. It's kind of the same thing. Him and Jalen Hurts were in the same class. Tua hasn't. I don't know exactly how many seasons they've made it to the playoffs, but I would bet like 3 maybe, if that. And I mean, that's not as bad. I mean, that is worse than what Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen have done. But neither of them have made deep playoff runs to get to the Super Bowl yet. So are they in an area where you could classify them as worrisome to leave those teams? And you think of teams like, well, the Jets, they could use a quarterback. The Dolphins, with the talent that they have, Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen both could do very well there. I mean, you have Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane. Jalen Waddle, like those dudes are killer, and they could do very well with a quarterback like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. So, I'm looking over at my notes every now and then just so I can stay on topic with where we are. One of the things I wrote after the Ravens and Bills is it time to worry? Is it time to think that those two quarterbacks can't lead their team to the promised land? I think one more season and we'll find out. I think that if either of those two don't make it deep in the playoffs, they both could potentially play in the AFC Championship. And that's really the only scenario in which I believe that neither of those two get traded or go to a different team, because every organization wants to go to the Super Bowl and win. And if you have a quarterback that hasn't gotten you there, there's only so much that every other player can do or every other position can do, but the quarterback is in charge of all of that except for the defensive side of the ball. So if neither of those teams don't make it to the playoffs next year or the Super Bowl next year, I believe that at least one of them is going to leave that team and go somewhere else. It saddens me to say that because the Ravens and the Bills will severely struggle once those two are gone. But there are some people in college right now that could perform well in those two places. So, I think that'd be a good question to ask you guys in the comments down below. Do you think that if either the Ravens or the Bills don't make the playoffs or the Super Bowl, will Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson be gone from their teams? Comment down below. Okay, we're getting closer to talking about the Super Bowl. I swear, we're almost there. And game time is almost here. A couple hours to game time right now to kick off. But the next thing we're going to hit on, and something that we're going to hit on very briefly, is the Pro Bowl and the Pro Bowl game. I have not followed the Pro Bowl. I've never actually watched the actual game. Ever. Once. I've been a fan of football for 26 years now. I said this was going to be short, and I promise it will. I just have to say, get rid of the flag football game. Make it a full game that actually means something. Please, please, please. Please, please, please. From every fan in the NFL, please get rid of the freaking flag football game. Please. That's it. The NFC did end up winning 66-52 from what I think was a 38-point comeback or something crazy like that. Like they were down, or they scored 38 unanswered or something like that. The bananas. And it seemed like the one highlight that I saw was Jamar Chase got a pick six. That was like the only highlight of the game, to be honest. So that's where we're going to leave it. That's where we're going to end talking about it. We're done. All right, now to the point where I was the most excited to talk about, the NFL Honors Awards. And I was very, very satisfied with the awards. I thought the extra fluff, I don't know why shows like that just add in so much extra stuff. Like, we don't need to hear all this extra run-ons. Like, not to slander anybody or talk bad about anybody, but the whole, like, who's got better fashion portion of the show. What? That doesn't even make any sense. I don't really think anybody cares, except for the people that were mentioned. So let's not do that again. But there's 5 different things I'm going to hit on. We're going to talk Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, MVP, Comeback Player of the Year, and Coach of the Year. And where better to start than Defensive Player of the Year, Mr. Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns. I have written down over here stats of all these players from the season. Myles Garrett, 23 sacks, NFL record. He was set that. Phenomenal record. We knew coming into the NFL that Myles Garrett was going to do great things. I not to say that I'm surprised it took him this long, but Surprised it took him this long in terms of who he is and what he's done every single season in and season out. So congrats to him, and ended up with 60 total tackles, 43 combined, and 17 assists. Or 43 solo, 17 assisted tackles. Phenomenal season. Great season by Myles Garrett. Next, Offensive Player of the Year, JSN from the Seattle Seahawks. Top 2 reason why they're in the Super Bowl this year, to be honest. JSN, 119 receptions, 1,793 yards, 10 total touchdowns. Like I said earlier, I don't keep in with all the news and stats as much as I should, especially now that I'm doing this show. But when I saw he only had 10 touchdowns, when you watch media and follow along, it seems like players like that have way more touchdowns than they do because they're so impactful for their team and for the game of football. But 10 still an unbelievable amount of touchdowns, and along with getting almost 1,800 yards, holy cow. Next, Comeback Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey, 49ers. I was really satisfied with seeing this and seeing that he won Comeback Player of the Year, because I just think of last year and the year before how well he did. Went to the Super Bowl. Next season, you get hurt, basically out the whole season. And to come back this year, rush for 1,202 yards, have 311 carries, and 10 touchdowns. That's unbelievable. Dude is a beast. Dude can run the rock. He is an animal. I really do love Christian McCaffrey. Next, we move on to MVP. Probably something that people find controversial or don't agree with, but I agree wholeheartedly. Matthew Stafford, Los Angeles Rams. He threw for 4,707 yards, had 46 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. 4,700 yards. Wow. The MVP race was between him and Drake May. I get it. Drake May's in the Super Bowl. Drake May put up unbelievable numbers this year. I think it's hard to say that any team had an easy schedule because they're all professional athletes in the NFL. It's all narrowed down to 32 teams. So to say that the Patriots had an easy schedule is underplaying what they actually did this season. Drake May, phenomenal player, phenomenal quarterback. I just believe, and I agree, that they had an easier schedule in terms of who they played throughout the season. The Rams had a very, very, very tough schedule, and not even going to mention the fact that they have 3 of the toughest opponents to play in the year twice, 2 times each. I don't think that's something that you can take lighthearted. You play the Seahawks twice. You play the 49ers twice. Bypass the Cardinals, not a great opponent. But you play 2 of the top-rated teams in the league 2 times, and you are playing what could be potentially the Super Bowl champions, the Seattle Seahawks, 2 times in a season, and those 2 games were decided by 3 points, less than 3 points between the 2 competitions. And Matthew Stafford slung that rock. They almost beat them in the NFC Championship. Matthew Stafford has been in this league for a long time. Matthew Stafford has came from Detroit to LA, won a Super Bowl in LA, and now in 2025 or 2026 has won the MVP. He deserves it, whether you believe it or not. And think about this. Could it have been biased? Could it have been said Matthew Stafford is getting to the close of his career? Let's give him the award. He put up phenomenal numbers, unbelievable numbers. Let's do it just because he's Matthew Stafford. Even if that were the case, Drake Maye is in his second season. If he can continue to put up numbers like this with the organization that he's in, he's going to win an MVP. And he could possibly win it next year if he does this again. He will win it. He will win it next year if he does this again. So those of you that are Drake Maye fans, I'm there with you. He did an unbelievable job this season. If he plays like he did this year, he's going to win next year. And then that leads me to the coach of the year, Mike Vrabel, New England Patriots. He led his team to 14-3 in the regular season and now to a Super Bowl in which they could potentially win here in the next 6 hours. I'm not going to get into personal opinion about the coach of the year because obviously that's a very opinionated thing, and I don't want to get beat up or canceled after my very first episode, so I'm not going to talk about that. But when you lead your team to 14-3 in the regular season and to a Super Bowl, you deserve to be awarded for that. Congratulations to all the players, to the coach. I'm so excited to watch the Super Bowl and to get in to the point that I've been waiting for all day. My predictions and my thoughts on what's going to happen tonight in the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 60. Okay, scoring matchup. I've racked my head about this every day for the last 2 weeks. Who is going to win and what's the score? It's really hard because, like we just talked about, Drake Maye has dominated offensively all season, but Seattle has a top 2 defense in the league. There's a reason they're winning games. Sam Darnold. And that brings me back to another player like Daniel Jones. It's cool to see people like Sam Darnold succeed and do well and make his way to the Super Bowl after basically being a bust up to this point. Well, except for the last 2 seasons, him with the Vikings and then him this season. But scoring prediction. I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to win 38-25. I think that they're going to win by 13 points because their defense is unbelievable. They've had 2 weeks to rest, and Sam Darnold can put them points up if he needs to. He has a couple weapons on offense. JSN, Offensive Player of the Year, Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet. Actually, Charbonnet not. Forgot he was injured. But yeah, 38-25. Final score prediction. I'm locking it in. It's done. And I think Super Bowl MVP. I think if the Seahawks put up 38, there's nobody you can give MVP to other than Sam Darnold, because that means he's probably going to have somewhere around 350, 370 passing yards and 3 touchdowns at least. So I think Sam Darnold is going to win MVP. But we will be checking in with you right now. Welcome back. It is after the Super Bowl, and that was quite the game. Let's start off, I guess. We've already recorded the first part of this episode. Let's get into the actual game. And what a game it was. I have been able to witness myself I don't want to say boring, but 2 to 3 games, specifically Super Bowls, that I did not find very interesting. And this was one of them, to be honest with you. This was one that didn't really pique my interest until about, halfway through the fourth quarter when things actually started to pick up. So it was kind of a letdown a little bit, and I think everybody kind of expected it to be in terms of what could happen. And I was on the spectrum, though, that believed that it was going to be a high-scoring game, and it led to not be one of those. But the score doesn't necessarily reflect that. So, for those of you that didn't watch, final score 29-13 in favor of the Seattle Seahawks, the team that everybody knew was going to win this game. And they did it because of the reason that everybody knew they would. Their defense. Holy Hannah. Their defense was killer tonight against the New England Patriots. And to be fair, the New England Patriots haven't done that great in the postseason up to today, and they still didn't do that great. The Patriots offense looked stale. It looked boring. It looked slow. 3 things that your team cannot be in the Super Bowl. Luckily enough for them, they were able to get to this point. Do I wish it was somebody else? Yes, because that sucked to watch. I'm sorry. It was not fun to watch. I obviously wrote down a couple things that I wanted to hit on. 12-0 at halftime. First thing. That's what I wanted to hit on. And really, one controversial thing, I think, but didn't really get hit on very much, was Cooper Kupp's catch incomplete pass in the last seconds of the first half. I think you give it to him. I don't think it changes much, or it doesn't really change anything at all, but I think you got to give him that catch. I think it did touch the ground, but I do think at that point he had possession in his hands, and then after it came up from the ground, it then was released, and then he fully brought it in. So I think you got to give him that catch. Like I said, I don't think it changes anything. It could have possibly gave them one more chance to throw it into the end zone, because I think at that point they had 13 seconds left. You would have got it down to probably 5 to 6 seconds left, and then had a chance to lob one up. If not, just kick a field goal. So I think you give it to him. I don't know. It's up to you guys to decide. Honestly, I mean, they didn't give it to him, so what? I mean, it doesn't really matter. But I think that was somewhat of a controversial call. I think they should have given him the catch. And then one other thing I wanted to hit on about specifically the first half, but Christian Gonzalez, man, that dude, he's a baller. And I saw a couple of things on just my Snapchat after the game. There was a couple NFL players, specifically Patrick Surtain, that, commented, and he was giving him props. Like, he played a really well game, kind of shut down the passing game, and he did a phenomenal job. I think if somehow the Patriots would have won that game, like, he probably would have been top 2 Super Bowl MVP choices. Like, he played super well, defended the long ball in a fantastic manner. Straight up baller. He did a fantastic job. And like I said, went into halftime 9-0. Very uneventful first half. But, I mean, you got to give it to the Seahawks. They played a phenomenal game on the defensive side of the ball and were able to drive the ball far enough to kick field goals, and ended up, I believe it's Jake Myers. I don't know exactly, but ended up with NFL record for most field goals kicked in a Super Bowl, 5. So that was entertaining. So yeah, we in the second half got our first touchdown of the game. Is it JT or something like that? Barner, first touchdown in the Super Bowl 60. I think it was like 18 yards. I didn't write down specifics on yardage and stuff. I basically was just casually watching, pretty much. But yeah, it was not until the fourth quarter. I think it was like 12, right below the 13-minute mark. Yeah, it was wide open, and kudos to New England, because I think it took them 45 seconds, less than 45 seconds, to score a touchdown themselves. So kudos to them. They were kind of marching a little bit at the end, had a chance to get back into it, and then Drake May throws that pick, and then their next possession he fumble recovery for a touchdown. So what can we say? Seahawks defense played a phenomenal game. Just some after game thoughts there, and I've said this already a couple times, but Seattle's defense, man, they for those of you that were around or know about the Legion of Boom, it is looking very reminiscent of the Legion of Boom. I wrote down in my notes in all caps, Seattle 12th man, in quotations, Legion of Boom. They are reminding me very much of that team and that group of players that they had in that time. Now, they don't have as dynamic players as they did back then on the defense now, but they as a whole play fantastic. I would say in the Legion of Boom era, there was 3 to 4 players that you could think of in those instances, like Bobby Wagner or Richard Sherman. Like, those were the dudes that you looked at. Now, I wouldn't say you think of any one of them specifically. You think of the entire team, and that makes it more of a Legion of Boom, in my opinion. I think as long as this group of people can stay together, and I don't know if it's true or not. I just barely saw on Snapchat again that Mike Kubiak, or I can't remember exactly what his name is, but their defensive coordinator was going to Las Vegas as the new head coach. So I don't know for sure if that's happening, but could be, and that could be a scary thing for Seattle. Next thing I wrote in here, Kenneth Walker, 100 rushing yards in the first half. The last I had heard, I didn't look up stats. I just got back in here and recorded as soon as the game's over. But I believe right before halftime, his last rush, he had 93 yards, and he picked up 2 on that final rush in the first half. So 95 yards, I think, on the ground. And I then, shortly after the second half started, about halfway through the third quarter, I wrote Kenneth Walker MVP, or Super Bowl MVP prediction. And, at the end of the game, they did announce Kenneth Walker won the Super Bowl MVP of Super Bowl 60. So, without him, that game ends probably, well, you got to take away at least 6. And then, well, you take away 6, and then you take away probably that first touchdown offensively. I mean, you're taking away 13 points of that game. I mean, that takes it to a 3-point game at the end of the game if things go or the way they were supposed to after that. So without Kenneth Walker, I think the Seahawks only win by 3, and it's a much closer game. Kenneth Walker did a fantastic job. I think it is 180 something yards total. Kudos to him. He did a phenomenal job. Great game for him. And then to hit on a couple things, the halftime show. I've said this for the last couple years, not just because it's Bad Bunny this year. And don't get me wrong, I thought really the performance that he put on was great. I thought it was very entertaining. But my personal opinion on the halftime show is we need to get rid of it in general. I think that the halftime shows are so polarizing that so many people don't like them. So many people disagree with who they choose to be doing the halftime show. And I know there was a bunch of people that turned off the halftime show and watched a different program. Like, come on, guys. That's whatever. I just personally don't think that the halftime show is as significant as we think it is. I think we need to have even like they do in the regular season, they do like those short flag football games for kids or whatever, stuff like that. Like, why not do something like that where you're incorporating the game of football into the halftime still? Like, you can still make it as long, make it so, like, I don't know, you just involve something else. I just think the halftime show is kind of pointless. And maybe back in the day, like in the 90s, early 2000s, with times when I wasn't watching football or I wasn't alive yet, I'm sure the halftime shows were great, but it just seems like they're trying to do too much, and they're just not that entertaining anymore. And don't get me wrong, I have found joy in some of the shows. I'm a huge Eminem fan, and even the halftime show that Eminem did, I was like, it was fun to watch and it was cool and everything, but wasn't I still wasn't super entertained by it. I just think we need to get rid of them. I don't find any reason to keep going with the halftime shows anymore. Like we gotta figure out something else to do. Do like, I don't know, American Ninja Warrior course or something. I don't know, something different. Because to me, it's just not entertaining enough, and it's too polarizing. It makes people go crazy, and it's just not worth it in my opinion. So that's my take on the halftime show, and any halftime shows in the future, any halftime shows in the past. Let's get rid of them. Let's do something else, because it's genuinely not worth it in my opinion. Like I'm glad that these artists get to take that on and do that for themselves, but it's just not hitting. And then I obviously with the Super Bowl comes the Super Bowl commercials. So I wrote down 4 different commercials that I thought were worthy of being talked about. And kind of the same thing, like Super Bowl commercials, people pay millions of dollars for their companies to get put on the commercials during the Super Bowl. And half the time they don't even make sense. But these 4 I thought were funny or kind of hilarious. Um, the very first one I wanted to talk about was the Pepsi versus Coca-Cola. Um, I guess beef, you could say. I thought it was I thought it was hilarious that Pepsi used the Coca-Cola polar bears in their commercial to show that they're drinking Pepsi. That was hysterical. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever noticed or paid attention to the fact that Pepsi has done this to Coke, if they ever have. So that was also why I thought it was funny that Pepsi did this, or Coke did the Pepsi, whatever it was. I thought it was hilarious that Pepsi chose to do this to Coke during the Super Bowl. I thought it was hilarious. It was so funny, and the fact that they reference it again later and using the whole CEO during the music concert thing was also hilarious. It just hit on so many funny things, and I thought that was a great commercial. Um, the next one, the one that I genuinely didn't understand. Me and my wife were talking at this time, so I wasn't really listening to what it was saying. But the whole Dunkin' commercial, there was like 5 or 6 different famous people in it, and I genuinely had no idea what was going on. Don't get me wrong, like I like all those people in that commercial, but I was so confused by what it was even for. Something about the Fibonacci sequence and the like I didn't even know. I know it was referencing something, but I don't know exactly what it was referencing. When it comes to pop culture, I'm not in that realm of things all the time, so I don't know what it was. It was just so crazy that I thought I had to mention it, and it was funny in the fact that I didn't know what was going on, so I laughed, kind of thing. The next thing, the Bud Light commercial with Peyton Manning and Post Malone, and the whole wedding thing. I thought that was hilarious. How it showed them rolling down the hill, and Peyton Manning just comes up like unscathed and just stands up. And he's like, "Oh yeah, great wedding, right?" or something like that. And then they, uh, tap the cake. I thought that was hilarious, and just the fact that Post Malone has to make a cameo in that because he's a huge Bud Light guy was great. And then the one commercial that I always look forward to seeing every single year, the Budweiser commercial. I At first I didn't understand it. Like I didn't realize it was a Budweiser commercial until about halfway through when I realized it was a horse. But I thought this was probably the most unique Budweiser commercial I've seen in a long time. I thought it was so cool that they had the Budweiser horse and an eagle. I don't know if that was the exact eagle they used and that they used in the commercial, but I thought it was so cool that they had them at the game. And like I said, that's always one that I look forward to every single year. Super cool commercial. I love that they always use Clydesdales, and I know that's like their trademark symbol, but I thought that was so cool. So that's about all we got. I mean, I don't really have much more else to say. I'm super excited to get this going. I've been thinking about this and working on this project for the last couple months, and I'm excited to get it out to you guys, and hopefully you enjoy listening, watching. I mean, we're obviously going to set some goals here. So the first goal that we're going to try to get to is we're going to try to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're watching this right now and you've enjoyed it, please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you get the notifications when we post. We are going to do our best to try to post once a week, every Wednesday, from here on out. So hopefully you can expect this episode. Today, day of release would be, I guess, the 11th of February. So hopefully you are seeing this February 11th, 2026, and you will follow our journey every Wednesday from here for forever. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you. Thank you for staying on topic while getting off topic with us here at OT and OT Podcast. Until next time, peace.